So I will call the meeting to order at 7:13.
Do we have somebody taking the minutes?
I guess I am, unless you want to go ahead and do that. I'll do it.
No, you probably do better than I would.
Okay. And if everyone had a chance to go over the minutes, I need someone to make a motion to accept them in a second.
So moved.
Okay.
Second,
So Michael in the room, I think, beat you, Doug.
That's fine.
well, Doug can have
Gary
second.
seconded.
Yeah,
That's
that's
fine.
what I was gonna do. We now turn the meeting over to Debbie.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I sent you out a lot of material, hoping to get over most of it this evening. I think it's all good stuff. I mean, we're finally starting to write the sections of our charter, so it's exciting to get started. Before I get to that, though, I wanted to, if we could, talk a couple minutes about the survey. Can everybody see the screen?
There it is,
I
yeah.
put it up. Because I think it's important if we're going to do this to, get it up and going so we can leave it open for 30 days or however long you want to leave it open. If you notice what I sent out to you, I don't remember who suggested this, but somebody suggested that we kind of have two columns here that basically talk about the differences between third class city code and home rule. I don't know if you got to look at that a little bit, but I tried to, these aren't all the differences, but I tried to sort of outline things that, can be adjusted under home rule. So it has to do with the number of elected officials, the duties and powers of the mayor, whether the council's elected at large or by district, it sets qualifications for the city manager. You can, and we've talked about this, eliminate treasurer controller and have a combined finance office. Currently the council members manage the departments. Under home rule, the city manager would do that. Tax rates right now are controlled by the state. Under home rule, tax rates are established locally by the council. How ordinances are advertised and adopted can be adjusted. And if we get to it, we'll talk about that this evening. And then changes to the code are controlled by the state currently under the third class city code. You can't just go in and make changes, but under home rule, the voters control what changes get to be made in the charter. So I don't know if that satisfies what you guys were looking for. Happy to take comments, criticisms, edits, suggestions.
I think it was Bethany that made the suggestion for that, and she's not here to comment about it.
I can talk to her, or at least, get to her separately. What's everyone else think about it?
I like the addition.
Are there other things that you think need to be highlighted, or is there something on here maybe we want to take off? I don't want to make it overly complex because it's tough for normal citizens your average citizen who doesn't really know a lot about how the government operates.
Yeah, it pretty much, as long as it stays in layman terms, I think this will be very helpful.
One suggestion I would have is where it just says home rule. I wonder if it would make more sense to people if that said what could change under home rule ?
Okay.
So that people would understand, okay, this is what, and maybe something over third class city code people don't know, we know exactly what that means, but other people won't. Would it be better to say how the city currently operates? Something like that, so that people would understand what those two columns mean. But I like the idea of the columns.
Okay. Yeah, maybe under home rule, we can say, yeah, what the differences are, something like that. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll figure out some kind of wording that incorporates that. That'd be great. Anything else from anyone? Okay. Then we had taken off question number 6, which had to do about effectiveness of government, complaints, how effective government complaints were. So basically, we have these questions about residency, because we want to try and limit it to residents only. The questions where they rank the most important characteristics of their local government, how they would like to get information or have information provided to them. I think this is important for all of us basically to know and understand, so we can get to as many people as possible. Who in government is most responsive to requests? Sort of like.
Can I interrupt
Sure.
and make a question about 4? Because 4 is unclear to me what we're after. Are we after how we as a home rule committee are going to get information to them? Or is this a question about how they would like their local government to respond to them?
I guess it could be either. And maybe we need to make that more clear. Do we want to know how people, how does the commission need to know how people that's a good point. Maybe we need to reword that so that what we're getting is how people would like the commission to communicate with them. Is that what?
Okay, great. If that's the case, then I think it would be best to say that. How would you like to have the Home Rule Study Commission give you information?
Okay. That's okay with everyone?
It's fine.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay, just one more. I hate to be a stick in the mud, but I'd rather ask these questions before we send the survey
We
out.
need to get it right. Absolutely.
Do we really want to call people? I guess I can see sending out a text message. I can definitely see email, website link. I guess if people said, I guess I'm assuming that would be a very low number, and it might be 2 or 3 people, and we would just say, okay, I'll take so-and-so and I'll call them, and I'll take so-and-so. Yeah.
And I don't know, some cities have what I call sort of a reverse 911 or an information line where you can push out information, people get messages, so you could push out, there's a public meeting scheduled for such and such a date, and you can push that information
Right.
out. I don't know if you have that or the ability to do that.
I don't believe we do. I've never seen it operate.
Yeah, the
So
school
I don't think
district
we
has
have-
that, but I could ask how they operate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times, yeah, if you have a database of either emails or phone numbers, I know in my town where I live, we kind of, every once in a while we get a message on our landline, which I know people don't even have a lot of landlines anymore, but we'll get a message that says, there's going to be something going on, a recycling thing event or something like that so that's the only thing I was thinking of with phone calls.
Yeah, yep.
Michael has a question.
Yes.
Question 4.
Can you hear him?
Nice and loud, Michael.
Question 4, if you have a question.
Right. I think the suggestion is to rephrase that and basically ask
Hang on.
how you would like to receive information from the Home Rule Charter Commission.
But you're assuming the questionnaire is going out before the Home Rule Commission. So you're assuming that we have a Home Rule Commission already.
We do. That's us.
He's not saying charter, he's saying commission. We're the group. That's the commission.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that at all.
She said we're the commission.
Oh.
So if they have a question for the commission is where it's going to go.
Oh, okay.
Not about a charter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's not worded very well. We'll get it worded better.
But see, the question doesn't say that though. It doesn't say-
Right, right. We were just, Doug just made a suggestion to change that.
She'll do another draft. It'll be
I'll
typed up.
definitely do another draft. Okay. Who in city government is currently most responsive to requests for service? This, and the reason this is on the survey is really to get a better understanding of, again, how residents interact with their government and who they typically interact with. And again, it's about responsiveness. Anything, any changes? Okay, and this gets to, the next two get to the issues that we're probably going to talk about tonight and find, get to a final draft, but this still gives you more information about the number of council members and the method for electing council members, whether it would be at large or by district. And I know that the commission's kind of made their, you have your preference, but this just gives you some idea and some information from the voters.
No, I really like
not
this, even though we are making decisions about how we intend to write the charter, and I think that's right, that this will be good feedback, and that if we find that we get a lot of surveys back that say, let's just say, saying there should be 7 council members, and that just comes back in a big way, then I think we need to take that under consideration and retake a look at it. So I don't think, me personally, I don't think there's a problem with us writing a proposed charter, getting a draft of that going, and then also asking at the same time for community input on the issues that we're working on.
Hey, I have a question.
Ed, we're listening.
This is Jerry. Under question 2, just an idea. We asked to provide your address. Could we add a line that has name, but make both of those 2 optional? Because if somebody has a question, who are you going to know to respond to unless they put their name?
Well, I don't know if we're trying to get questions through the survey. What we do get are comments, and people are typically, I don't know, I think they're unlikely to provide a name. I think we could put something about, if you have a question, here's how to get, here's where to direct it. But I don't know if you want to actually have them ask questions through the chart survey. I mean, it's not typical. Typically, we do have a place for comments, and trust me, you will get a lot of comments. And if they want an answer, they will put their information in. But I don't know if you want to. Like I said, the only reason I even put these first 2 are because it kind of stops, well, if they answer no, they're not a resident, they're not going to be able to go any further. And then what if they, I don't know why they'd want to take the survey if they're not, but if they said yes, they would have to put an address. And so they could make something up, but it kind of slows it. It's an attempt to eliminate people who are not residents. That's the only reason those two are even on there.
People do get confused in our area because of the zip code. The zip code is 15010 is for the city of Beaver Falls, but also Chippewa. And so sometimes people think they live in Beaver Falls because they have a 15010 zip code. So really putting the address question down is good because we can see, did they really understand whether they do or do not live within the city limits?
Right. Okay, and then we have this question about real estate and earned income taxes as the two primary sources of city income, recognizing, and I think we have to recognize that no one likes to pay taxes. Which of the following is the better method for generating revenue for critical services like police, fire, road repair, snow removal, etc.? I think we know the answer, that most people are going to say some combination, but it's good to have maybe some reaffirming answers when we do that. So, and then this one is, and we may want to be careful about how we ask this question. This is a question about what position in local government should have primary authority for overseeing the departments when it comes to the day-to-day city operation. I don't know what you think about that question or the way it's phrased. And I think it's important. But again, people who don't know much about government are not going to have a strong opinion, probably one way or the other.
Did you hear Michael?
What did he
No.
say?
He
No.
was wondering if the question is relevant for the survey.
If we're looking at a city manager form of government, I think it's relevant. Whether or not you want to ask the question is another question. You can ask it or not. It's probably relevant, but it's entirely up to you whether you want to keep it, and also whether or not there are other questions that we haven't thought of that you think are important, to ask.
Debbie, I might do one editing change on number 9, and that is saying, wouldn't it be true to say home rule charters often assign substantial, so it's not a requirement of a home rule charter that it has to put authority in a single position.
True. I just added it.
Yep, thanks.
think
Yeah, I
that's
see that. That's
good
great.
add- That's a
Yeah.
good one.
Michael has another addition.
Yes.
Is the word substantial necessary? I don't
Can
know.
you repeat it?
Is the word substantial necessary?
Maybe not. What do you guys think? You want to take it out?
I think it's good without.
I have no objection to that. Yeah.
Yeah, we can lose it.
We lost it.
Good work.
I know. Okay. Any questions that are important from your perspective that we need to add to this survey? I can always make the font a little smaller and add another question. I did want to keep it relatively short.
Yeah. Old eyes can't read smaller font. Get that.
And then I just wanted to spend a couple minutes, if we're done on the content, about you all were discussing about how to circulate it. I can get it up this weekend, and I can send the link out to all of you, and you can put it on Facebook and other places. But you probably should be thinking about also hard copies and how we get those around. So,
Neil did talk to Donna Nugent. He sent an email saying that she did agree to having these put in the safe folders that go home with the kids. In elementary, that's elementary level. Middle school, high school doesn't have that sort of thing.
That would be worth doing, though. That would get a lot of city residents right there. Yeah.
Yeah, she did. She told Neil she agreed to it.
Is there
so
any way that we can include a place, like an informational blurb on the actual survey itself that says where a paper copy can be picked up if someone is interested in obtaining a survey?
yeah, absolutely. If you tell me where and when and how it can be dropped off, that's, I guess, I can add that to the survey and give you a print ready copy and the link.
I feel like we can probably get, I mean, the city building, we can have them there, right? That's going to be an issue. And then we can have some, I'm sure we could talk to the library. They could keep some there. I'm not sure if I really am interested in finding out beyond just the people that use social media what their opinions are. I think that's super critical to this being successful. So I don't know. I just don't. But I'm the social media generation, I guess. So I don't know how to get that into other people's hands.
Is that something maybe Paula would collect for us, do you think?
We could probably just create like some kind of a collection box, and we could
Yeah, and just
leave
have
it
it from
The
City Hall.
drop-off box in the lobby might be the best thing so that it doesn't interrupt people's workday.
And people can
Okay.
pick up. I mean, I don't care. I don't think anybody's gonna, like submit like multiple. It's not. There's not gonna be the kind of stuff that's gonna skew our results. So like,
No.
I mean, we could just leave piles here, there, and everywhere. And just pick them up.
Yeah, I don't think people are gonna be rushing to do a lot. We'll be begging people to fill them out, right?
Debbie, tomorrow I can reach out to like the library and maybe a few other places in town, and I'll try to get back to you so that can be on the list when it goes out.
Yeah, definitely.
If anybody has a suggestion for someone I should talk to, please just send me an email or a text or something after the meeting.
Yeah, like I said, we'll provide print-ready copies. If we need to actually print some, I can do that too and get those out. And we'll provide you the links. And one of the things that actually works is if all of you send the link to everybody you know and ask them to send it to everybody they know, and you almost do like an email tree where that actually is kind of productive. So, okay.
Could we put that into the Beaver County Times and then make people aware that there's even a survey out there?
I think I told you Newcastle actually did that for them. They actually did a little announcement and had the link right there in their online version and on their print version. And so people could actually see that there was a survey, and also they could, get in on the link. So that worked for them. I don't know if the Beaver Times would do the same thing. Is there any thing that's circulated locally to Beaver Falls and within the city? Is there something? No.
Nah.
No, not really. I mean, I had reached out to Carl Chappell, and he was really busy with some stuff, but he wasn't able to come to the cost of doing like a mailer yet. So I think he's going to get back to me. But I mean, it seems like it's maybe a little cost for him.
Yeah, and we can keep brainstorming that. How long do you want to keep it open, or do you want to just play that by ear? I mean, I can leave it open as long as you want it open.
What's
I
the
think at
normal-
least a month. If we can get 2 months, I think that would even be better, but I wouldn't go beyond 2 months, and I'd like it at least a month.
Okay.
Is there any advantage to having it open after we've done some like more public education though, so that people, I mean, because I feel like people, my opinions on things have changed since I started to learn about this stuff. So I'm just wondering, you know, if people understand, I mean, that survey is helpful, but if you don't really understand the difference between a third class city code or a home rule charter, and then you find out what those differences are, then you may be inclined to think differently. Maybe not. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I might be thinking of 10 people here, but
It's entirely your decision. I think it's good that there's information about that on the survey itself. Remember, we said last time, it's not just to gather information, it's also to provide information. And I think that's what we have to keep in mind too, that it's an educational tool for the commission.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
A little louder.
barely.
About places of worship. Maybe some of the local churches would like to pass them out to their parishioners.
Well, I know we're not in because of COVID. You know, I don't know how many churches are having actual service. You know, most of them are just streaming. I personally, Second Baptist is not having congregation. So, what about other ones? But,
Okay, I'm going to move on. Go ahead.
Sharing, I'm sorry, we could talk to churches about making an announcement though. I mean, that's, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, or, you know, advertising it, or, you know, using churches' email lists if they're willing to participate in that.
I'm going to move on to the actual sections of the charter now, and take, I guess we have about an hour here maybe to finalize some of this. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you if I can here. I sent these out in advance, and we don't have to go through every single item because I think some of it is just relatively straightforward. I will say that Bonnie and Mike Foreman and I all reviewed this prior to me sending them out, but I wanted to give you, actually, I'm going to pull something else up here.
I'm amazed, Debbie, at how well we've written it.
I know, you guys are amazing. I wanted to give you, first of all, before I even get into that, I put together a template, and you'll see why I'm boring you with this, because I wanted you to get a feel for how this is going to be constructed, okay? Because then I think it'll make more sense when you see how it all will come together. So it will start out with the preamble and statement of vision, which I want to talk to you about, and these first two articles, which you've received. And then I just wanted you to know what the rest of it was going to look like. So Article 1, we're going to talk about tonight, general provisions. Article 2, elected officials. Article 3, and I don't know if we'll get there tonight, but I will send a draft out for you to take a look at. We'll start talking about legislation, about how you draft ordinances, resolutions, and those things that, you know, provide the backbone for the entire operation. We'll have a section, Article 4, that will be about the appointed officials. We've talked about some of those: city manager, solicitor, finance officer, and city clerk. Article 5, and these are just the bare bones. There will be a lot of fill in, you know, around these. Article 5 will be around personnel. So we'll talk about a personnel system, collective bargaining, civil service, the pension system, and all of those things that go into the regulation of personnel. We'll talk about the administration and departments. And again, we'll fill in probably a lot more. This is where we'll talk about the administrative code, the department directors, and some of the departments. There will be a whole session on, and we'll spend probably at least one night on this, the financial procedures How is the budget pulled together? Who's responsible? What about purchasing, procurement, contracts? All this really exciting stuff. I know I'm putting everyone to sleep here. How do we pay, make payments? What are the regulations about borrowing, investments, and audits? So that'll all be in the financial procedures. We will spend some time, of course, on taxation, Article 8. Article 9 will be the boards and commissions, and these are the ones that are the standing boards and commissions. Obviously, along the way, you can appoint others, but Article 9 will establish which ones are mandatory for you to have. And then the last three are required: public participation, open meetings, public records, official city information, initiative and referendum. And then before we're done, we have to talk about transition. How does this all happen? Who does what when does it become effective? And we'll map that all out. That also must be part of the charter. So I think the thing to keep in mind, one, we have a lot of work to do, right? But two, anything that is not in the charter, because it's home rule, and Bonnie, make sure I'm saying this correctly, it can be done if it's not regulated by the charter. We're going to actually have a little discussion about when does it fall back on the third class city code, and we want to talk a little bit about that. But keep in mind that you have a lot of discretion when it comes to the home rule charter. Okay, I am going to do a new share here. Here, back to here. So any questions about the structure? You can see how it will all eventually come together and be addressed as we go along. So most home rule charters at the beginning have what's called a little preamble and statement of vision. Basically, it says that this charter and all amendments hereto shall constitute the form of government for the city of Beaver Falls. Among the purposes of this charter are to provide municipal services and facilities with the highest degree of efficiency and economy, to establish a mayor, council, manager form of government, to secure all possible municipal home rule authority. You want to take advantage of anything that you have authority to do, and to provide for the health, safety, and well-being of the citizens. You know, it talks about what we envisioned for this form of government, and the importance of local self-government and affirming the values of representative democracy. I know it's a lot of words, but I think it's important to sort of set out there exactly what the intent is and why we're actually doing this. We can elaborate, we can shorten it, but I wanted to at least give you some language for thought. How about that? Okay.
Yep.
I like that section.
And we can expand on it if people have language that they would like to see inserted. I don't want to get too wordy here, but again, I do think it's important to establish our vision. So Article 1 is interesting. It provides sort of the backbone, the general provisions. And again, this is sort of a necessary article. So I highlighted the things that I thought we could discuss. But if you have other things that I haven't highlighted, feel free to, comment, edit. This is the very first look at all of this stuff. So we have a long way to go, and we can certainly make changes. So you could actually change your name if you wanted to. I don't think you want to. I mean, you've heard of the town of McCandless. They should change theirs to town. Bonnie, I think Penn Hills is the municipality of Penn Hills. They no longer kept the city as part of their name. You could, because you're creating a new charter, actually change that. I didn't think you wanted to, but it's a possibility.
The falls, we can be the falls.
You could be the falls. You could be whatever you want it to be. These effective dates, we're leaving blank for now, because what we'll do is we'll write the transition section at the end, and then we'll fill in these dates once we decide what that's going to look like. Because not everything will be effective at the same time, and we'll talk about that, because people that are elected to positions get to continue in those positions, and but we'll get to that in at some point. So this is a decision point under 1.3, and like I was saying, home rule gives you a lot of power to perform any function of government that's not denied by the Constitution, the Pennsylvania Constitution, by this charter, or by the General Assembly at any time. Now, the next sentence is the one that I think I want, you guys to be aware of, and we can have some discussion about. We added this section, and I think that Bonnie, and I won't speak for you, Bonnie, but you and Michael and I prefer to have this section in, because it basically says that if there's no clear guidance, you're going to fall back on the third class city code. Now, some communities don't have that in it, and sometimes they're in court trying to decide whether or not something they did is, beyond the home rule charter. Bonnie, I think you might have seen this at one time or another. And so when there's no real clear guidance, it could set you up for litigation.
Well, home rule charters in general are rife for litigation. I mean, that they just are. So whether you have, I think it's better to have this in, because it clearly indicates that was your intent. But it doesn't really matter, because that's what the home rule charter and optional plans law says. So you're going to be bound by that, whether you have that in your charter or not. But I think if it was me, I would have it in there.
There are a lot of municipalities that, and I've heard some solicitors even say, yeah, if it doesn't say you can't do it, you can do it. But there are some areas of the third class city code that we're not going to have in the charter that might come into question. I'm thinking more like civil service, your pension system. We're not going to have that in the charter. So I think what we want it to make sure that it falls, those kinds of things would fall back on the third class city code. But you don't have to have this language. Like Bonnie said, it might apply and hold anyway.
It would be my advice to leave it in there. But, that's your decision.
Well, if it keeps us out of litigation, we should leave it.
I'd agree with that. And if we're going to be bound by it anyways, we might as well have it in there.
Okay. So, good. So this is, Michael Foreman actually added this residual powers conferred on city council. So basically, it goes even a little bit further and says that all of these powers that we talk about in 1.3, they're actually vested in council. So it specifically references that, again, all of those things that are not denied and are available to the city, that those powers are actually vested in the city council. And I think that was a good add. Michael asked that we put that in.
Okay.
Construction, I guess, Bonnie, I'm not sure exactly. This is sort of a legal kind of, it will be construed liberally in favor of the city. All the powers of the city.
Yeah, and this would basically get back to if you're in litigation, they look at, if you have a written document, is it construed against the writer or is it construed against the person that's being, the laws are written for? So in this case with home rule charters, they always want to, if the courts have any window for interpretation, they want to give the home rule charter a liberal interpretation so that it stands up. They want to keep your home rule charter viables, and they do, so they give it, if there's not a black and white answer and the court would have the ability to exercise some discretion, then they want it to be in favor of supporting the home rule charter. That's essentially what that says.
Okay, so here's a general question, right away as we get into this kind of thing. I think I've been envisioning, and Debbie, you've been describing that the home rule charter wouldn't be a real lengthy document. But now I'm beginning to look at the kind of the legal language that falls into this. And I would take 1.5 as an example. That's in my mind, that's impossible for the general lay person to figure out what in the world is being talked about. And I appreciated Bonnie's description because that was helpful for me. Is there any way to put this kind of stuff at the end of the document so that you could have something that might say legal requirements or legal information or something like that? Because I can see somebody picking up our home rule charter, looking at that first description, which is pretty nice. They get to this page and it starts to be non-understandable. And then later on, we'll say, yeah, but in our home rule charter, it said that we could now raise earned income tax. Didn't you see that? And
You're on mute, Doug.
Yeah, you just muted yourself.
You muted yourself.
He's still
we
going.
do the
There we
whole
go.
speech.
Yeah. There
Okay,
you go.
thank you. So,
Well, that's
But
kind
just-
of why we'll have a very specific table of contents because of that. I mean, I think the general provisions, and I mean, we could certainly discuss it. It's just such a standard Article 1,
Yes.
because it lays
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
structure, it's the bare bones kind of.
yeah,
So if they wanted to look at taxation, they'll have a table of contents and they can go
that would
directly.
just say right to that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go right to
okay,
that
that's
page.
good.
Go right
Thank you.
to council, go right to, city manager. That's gonna be, pretty clear once we write this. And I really don't envision, I don't think this will be more than 25, 30 pages. That would be all the longer it'll be. It's not gonna be like your code that's hundreds of pages long, So we'll get.
You'll laugh at me, Debbie, but when you said short, I mean, I was literally thinking
Yeah.
short, like
Oh,
3 or 4 pages. Now, right, compared to the third class city code, even 30 pages is going to be way shorter, but
right.
that's reorienting me to what's really the reality here.
Yeah, I mean, again.
It's not going to be a 5-page document.
No,
It's going to be,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, thanks. That's
Did you have
helpful.
something?
We'll take out what we can, trust me. We don't want any
Yeah.
more language in here than we need. But you do have to be specific about your powers that you want to have.
Right.
Things that you want to change.
Yeah,
I'm
in
sorry.
1.5, Michael would like to change, where is it, Michael? Oh, to charter shall not be construed. Maybe interpreted, something that a little more user-friendly than construed.
Okay. Let me see if I can highlight that. Yes, I can. Okay.
It's like got a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, intergovernmental, this just, again, helps set forth the things that you can do, that the city is empowered to do. So this basically says that you can exercise any powers or perform any functions or responsibilities. You can partner with the federal government, the Commonwealth, any other municipality, the school district, any other authority in any or more states or governments of another state. So this basically gives, again, confers power to the city council to work with other governments and other partnerships. So it's pretty straightforward.
That is, Jerry, but I assume that any current contracts that we have, like with municipal authorities, just carry over to the home rule?
Yeah, there is actually a section a little further down that will say that everything that's existing stays in effect. And that's why I know this is a little tedious, but it's language that needs to be there, because that's a good point, Jerry. Anything that's currently in effect, you want it to stay in effect.
Right.
Eminent domain, it's something that's in the third class city code. This just spells it out and continues the city's power, authority, ability under the laws of the Commonwealth to have, the power of eminent domain. But it also says the city shall have no authority to grant this power and to anyone else this right of eminent domain. It's
Yeah. And eminent domain is one of the areas that's preempted. You have to follow the eminent domain code. You can't,
Right.
You're not allowed to be different.
These are just a few definitions so that when we write the rest of the charter, we'll know when we say charter, what that is. When we say city, we know what that is. So we didn't want to belabor this, because most of the words people are going to understand anyway. But there were a few things that we wanted to make sure that if we say public notice, we know what that means, The guarantee of non-discrimination, that's something that is typical. It's always, in a charter, again, guarantees of non-discrimination. The ethics law, this basically just says that all officials and employees shall be subject to the Pennsylvania Public Official and Employee Ethics Law. It also says, however, that council may adopt a city ethics ordinance, which may be more restrictive, but shall not conflict with the state ethics law. So there may be, and this will come more in the administrative code, and when you start to do ordinances that implement the charter, you may decide, and this will be more council's decision than the commission's decision, but this basically says that you can have a complete ordinance that deals with ethics. And then the conflict of interest provision is no elected or appointed official or employee of the city shall attempt to influence, or vote on the making of any contract or otherwise supervise or deal in any city matter in which such person has either a direct or indirect financial, personal, or other special interests. And when we get to the council, we'll think back about this, because there are provisions that require people to vote unless they're engaged in a conflict of interest. So this kind of spells out what is a conflict of interest. And then we'll talk about council members and voting when it comes to that. Jerry, this is the provision I was talking about, the continuation of general laws and ordinances. Anything that is in effect when the charter takes effect shall continue. So debts, obligations, liabilities, anything of that nature continues. This is an important clause. Amendments to this charter have to be made in accordance with the laws of the Commonwealth governing home rule charters. So, inseparability, Bonnie, you want to take that one? That's if anything struck down, I think. You're muted. You muted yourself.
I thought it was the other way, sorry. Severability just means if any provision of your charter is found to be illegal, that it doesn't make the whole charter void. It just voids whatever section would be found to be improper. Did that explain that?
Yeah.
So that's really all. I mean, we did that in 2 pages, Doug.
Hey, I have a question on 113. Debbie, I have a question on 113.
Yes.
Do all charter amendments have to be by referendum?
Yes.
Should it say that?
Actually, it will say that in the initiative and referendum section. So basically, there will be a section that explains how a charter can be amended. And it can, in general, there's 2 ways, either by petitions of the residents to get it onto the charter or onto the ballot, or it can be by council ordinance. So the council can pass an ordinance with a question that would amend the charter. So that's kind of the 2 main ways, I think, Bonnie, that's either by voter or by the council itself.
That's correct.
Okay. Anything on Article 1? I'll make the changes we talked about, and basically what I'll do is I take this and just dump it in that template I showed you. And so that's how we'll build our charter over time. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna put number 2, which was, we actually answered a lot of the questions last week about council. I just took what we had basically already talked about and put them in Article 2. So in Article 2, the first thing we say is the only elected officials now will be the council and the mayor. That's the only elected officials of the city, as opposed to now. Council, at least the way this is drafted right now, is, and this is at your direction, 5-member council elected at large, staggered 4 years, one of whom shall be the mayor. But the mayor will be independently elected at large, shall be the presiding officer of council, official representative of the city. The mayor will have no veto power. So that's pretty much the way it is. I don't think that's really a change much from the way it is right now. This is something new. I put this in. It's for you all to decide. Many times in a home rule, they council that among themselves select a deputy mayor who presides in the absence or disability of the mayor. So that is something that I added, but it's for you to decide whether or not that makes sense from your perspective.
Do we need it?
Well,
Jerry doesn't think so, or not Jerry, sorry, Michael doesn't think so.
Well, if the mayor is absent or disabled, or if the mayor resigns, the deputy mayor would automatically step into that position. Otherwise, the council would have to appoint someone to be the mayor. It comes into play, I guess, more when there's an absence or a resignation or a disability.
Would the manager step into that role?
Right now, what happens is the councilman in charge of finances steps in.
Right.
So
And that's in the third class city.
that's in the 3rd class city code. So I think it is a good idea to spell out some way that it's going to be determined. So this seemed good to me, that the council would vote on a deputy mayor when the mayor is unavailable.
So would that be one of the council members then, a deputy mayor?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, so you keep it elected officials rather than moving to the city manager. I think that's,
Yeah, the city manager can't really fill that role because he or she is not an elected official.
right. Right.
And like I said, if this becomes more of an issue, if there's, for instance, if the mayor would resign or, you know, for some reason be unable to move away, not be able to fulfill the term, the deputy mayor would then step up and you would fill the position, but you would fill a council position. You wouldn't fill the mayor's position, you would fill a council position. So, you know, it's something to think about. You don't have to decide, you know, tonight. I know we're missing a couple people, but many municipalities have a deputy mayor, and this is how they do it. I did want to revisit briefly, if we could, the 18 years of age. I know we had a discussion about it, and I guess council was there a consensus that it'd be 18? 18 seems young, especially for the mayor.
I kind of wanted to raise that, but then it seemed like everybody was kind of leaning towards at 18, they're old enough to go fight for the country. So at least that's where Bethany was, I know. I thought 18 was too young because I deal with 18-year-olds and I know they can't run a city. So,
I think you're making a mistake with the 18, but particularly with your mayor, who is going to be the one running your meetings and would be the representative of council if there needs to be one. You don't want the, you know, essentially the head of council to be that young. You just don't. It's that's a recipe for disaster. So my thought is, if at a minimum you make the mayor older. I think they all should be older, but at a minimum, the mayor. That's my 2 cents.
I agree with your 2 cents.
What do most cities do? 21? Or do they make it older than 21?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I have any real sense of that, to be honest. I think mostly I've seen 21, but we could look at, Jerry, you have a whole library of home rule charters, I think. Jerry's muted.
I'll unmute him here.
I'll take a look.
Do you want to take a look? I know you have a whole library of home rule charters.
I'll do that. Report back.
Okay, I'll leave that highlighted for now. So this is the eligibility. Oops, I want to get rid of that. Okay, this is the eligibility. They would have to be at least, however old you decide, be a registered voter, have resided in the city. So we talked about this, have resided in the city for a period of 1 year prior to the filing of petitions for the primary election in which the person is a candidate. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. And then retain residency in the city during his term of office. And they would have to forfeit the remaining term of office should he or she move out of the city. This is how the elections would run. There would be 2 council members in one election, and then 2 council members and the mayor at an alternate municipal election. There would be 4-year terms, and the terms shall begin on the first Monday of January of the year after their election. So that pretty much stays the same as what you currently have, I think.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Compensation of the mayor and council members, those big paychecks that you guys got, shall be established by ordinance. I think that's the appropriate method for that, don't you, Bonnie? You think by ordinance, right?
Yes.
And then it would be no later than the 15th of the year of a municipal election. So You couldn't establish it, well, you could establish it anytime, but it wouldn't take effect until the date of the mayor or council take office after that's already in place. So
That's correct.
now we have here, they shall receive net pensions, insurance, health benefits, or other fringe benefits. However, they can be reimbursed for any expenses incurred in the performance of their duties. Is that consistent with, I think, what you have now, Doug? Oh,
You're
Doug,
muted,
you're
Doug.
muted.
No, we don't have any health care or pension or anything like that. Yeah.
So that's consistent with current.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then we have a whole bunch of powers and duties. And again, we mention any power which may hereafter be conferred by Constitution of the U.S. or Pennsylvania, by charter, by act of the General Assembly. So here are the duties. First and foremost, and this is if the charter passes, we'll be involved in this for the next 6 months or to a year, to adopt an administrative code that sets out all it fills in the blanks. Basically, the administrative code it fills in the blanks from the charter. It sets up the departments, the agencies, the offices, the personnel, the boards and commissions, all of that stuff. So the admin code is the first thing that gets done. Most of these are pretty standard. I don't see a real need. Now, I did want to talk about D to approve the appointment of department directors as recommended by the city manager. So I guess, we should talk about that. Some charters confer this power to the manager without any approval by the city council, but I think this makes sense, but we can talk about that.
I think this is the right way to go. You want to have the city manager we're consolidating a lot of power in the city manager, but I think the fact that the city manager has to bring those recommendations to the council and have them approved, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Any other thoughts?
yeah, because it gives accountability. They can't just pick and just throw somebody in there.
Okay, I wanted to bring that to your attention. Mike Foreman added these to create, alter, combine, or abolish municipal departments, bureaus, boards, and commissions not otherwise specified in the charter. So we will have some departments in the charter, but other than that, council will have full discretion to create or alter or abolish or set up municipal departments that's conferred completely on the city council.
That seems to me like, I mean, I'm not really opposed to that, except that seems like a lot of power. So is the home rule charter going to delineate the current city departments, or no, just say that
we can put in, and I did say, if you saw those place savers that I had, we did have some places for departments, and we can certainly provide some initial, framework for those departments. But you don't want to get too specific. A lot of that's going to be in the admin code.
yeah.
The thing about the admin code is it's an ordinance, so you can amend that much, much easier than you can amend a charter.
Right. Okay.
Again, the charter, less is better, because
Yes.
the problem with amending. So
Right.
we want to think about that, as we go along.
Yeah, that's why I envisioned that, 4-page charter.
Yeah, I don't think we could do. If we could, I would. So, and then F, of course, is to levy taxes, establish rates, and assess fees. So, an important power of council. Did anyone see anything else in there that caused you any pause or that is not clear? This is to make appropriations, incur indebtedness, to conduct special studies or audits, to hold public hearings on any matter, to appoint committees, commissions, etc. Conduct, there is a ability to conduct investigations here somewhere. Well, right here, compel attendance of witnesses, produce papers, documents, issuing subpoenas, to fix the amount of fidelity bonds for officers and employees, to adopt by resolution or motion any policy, rules, and regulations for its own conduct and procedures. So again, wouldn't have it in the charter, but you could, the council could adopt its own regulations for how they conduct business. But that would be subsequent to the charter change. And then to make provision for any matter of city government not otherwise provided for, but not restricted. Okay, I added this continuing education. You may or may not want it in the charter, but I think it's, in my opinion, and you have to remember I come out of local government administration. I think this basically says that the city shall offer to the mayor and council members the opportunity to obtain memberships in professional organizations, to attend training through local government training organizations, to participate in continuing education, and that the city would pay for that. I think that's important.
I do too. I've participated in the local government academy, had a big long session for incoming folks that were elected. And also I participated in some of their blight workshops. So I think this is forward thinking and good to have in here.
Yeah, I think it makes sense because, especially like you say, newly elected officials, when they come into this, don't know much about local government. And that's a great course. I've actually been a trainer at some of that. And I just love that interaction with newly elected people that are so so optimistic about things that they can do. It's great. But again, this doesn't have to be in here. I think it's important, but the commission can decide whether or not it's important to them.
I think it's okay.
Yeah, we agree in the city chambers here, it's important. The two of us here.
These are typical prohibitions for council members. They shall not hold any elected or appointed city office other than the one to which they're elected or appointed. Shall not hold any compensated position of city employment. Shall not accept gifts from any persons who may gain personally from a transaction with the city. And except for the purpose of the inquiry, the mayor and council members shall deal with the day-to-day administration of the city solely through the city manager. Shall not give orders to subordinates of the city manager directly or indirectly. So this sort of strengthens that city manager role because the council basically deals with the city operation through the city manager.
Yeah, D is a big deal, and as good as our group is, this area has provided a little bit of tension at points. And I can imagine in a dysfunctional group that it would provide enormous tension. So I think D is very, very important. There's a structured way. If you have a question, if you're a councilman, you have a question about, you know, somebody, a department and what's going on, you go to the city manager. Yep. You don't go to the department and start bawling out the department head or individual employees or whatever. Yep.
D.
Well, along those lines, and this is probably a little bit way out there for now, but let's say for talking purposes that a councilman did do things that he shouldn't do. Is there a way of censuring?
No, that's always a tricky business, because this council has to self-regulate, right? They're elected independently, and the council members are peers, and they kind of have to sort of regulate, you know, put peer pressure on. And that goes back to, I think, this ability to provide rules, policy rules and regulations for their own conduct. I mean, I think that's kind of pressure you can bring, but to actually censure another member of council, I've seen it done. I don't think it's very, I don't know, it's not very effective, and it doesn't have any legal bearing or legal. I know, Bonnie, you might have some thoughts about censuring each
And I
other.
mean, you can do it, but it doesn't, I mean, you can't keep them from coming to meetings. You can't keep them from voting. You can't, you know, short of.
You can't even keep them out of executive sessions. I've seen people try to do that.
I had one community, the leaks from executive session were so bad. I told the people that were in the majority, and it was the minority doing it, I said, just take a vote. You're keeping them out of executive session, but know if they challenge it,
You'll lose.
you're going to lose. But they never challenged it. So for years, they kept this minority group out of executive session.
Okay.
So
But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Jerry, but it's a little tough to when you have like a rogue council person that's out there doing things.
Thanks for the idea, Bonnie.
Yeah.
well, it was funny because we all knew who was doing it, but we couldn't prove it. So what I did is I did a fake legal memo about a case, and I put a different error in each memo and then wrote down who I gave them to. And then when a reporter walked in with my memo, I said, well, let me see that. And so that's how we were able to.
Yeah.
I think, quite frankly, that's the only reason they didn't challenge it, because they were so embarrassed because we had them dead to rights. You know? But it's crazy.
Okay, I know we're getting a little late here. I'm gonna finish up this section. This is the vacancy.
Yeah, just
Sure.
I don't know if you intend to have the language up. All I'm getting is the menu.
Yeah, that's what we have. We just been following along on the paper.
Oh, really? I'm sorry.
'Cause you had the actual language up before, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, can you see it now?
Now.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, okay.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, we're good now.
Oh, sorry about that.
We were
I
following on
just
paper.
pulled it up on my phone and read from there, and everybody else was doing.
You should have told me.
whatever.
Sometimes when you go to a new document, it doesn't work right. Okay. Can you see this vacancies and forfeiture piece here?
Yep.
Yep, all good.
So this basically tells you if there's a vacancy in office, how it's handled. A vacancy can be declared by council upon death, resignation, or removal from office. Removal would primarily be if someone moved away or didn't resign, they just moved away. I've seen that happen too, where they didn't officially resign, they just left town. So the council would declare the seat vacant. The other thing we talked about was this issue about the felony, and I'm not sure that we finally resolved. As we talked about last time, there is language in the Constitution, Pennsylvania Constitution, about this, that, you know, if a person is convicted of a felony. However, in practice, it's only been primarily when the court removes them and that they've been indicted by the AG or a DA. I looked at a couple charters, and Jerry, you can check this one out too. There are several charters that do have that the person forfeits their office if they're convicted of a felony. But I guess, Bonnie, it's a matter of whether that's challenged or not.
Yeah, well, I if you recall, I was telling you about the case that I had in Clairton, 25 years ago. There was language like that in their charter, and they tried to have the guy removed based on the charter language. The case took so long with appeals, he ended up serving his sentence, but the court ultimately held that the charter language was illegal.
He served his whole term before it was decided, right?
Mm-hmm. But it's because it's contrary to the language in the Constitution.
So
voters convicted of a felony?
Yes.
you can have that language in there, but what we're saying is we're not sure if it would hold up, because if it was challenged,
The law, the case law as it stands today, it would not hold up. Now, who knows? I guess a court down the road could find a reason to change that, but.
So I left it as kind of an open question as to whether or not you wanted to have this as one of the reasons, because we have that the mayor, council member shall forfeit his or her office if at any time during the term of office any qualification prescribed by the charter or by law is no longer doesn't meet those qualifications. If you had something in here that said it's been convicted of a felony, then the council could attempt to remove that person, but like Bonnie said, it probably wouldn't hold up in court. So
it would be my advice, because we know right now it would be illegal language. I wouldn't put it in. You're inviting lawsuits, in my opinion, if you try to enforce it. But like I tell my clients too, you can do whatever you want to do till somebody challenges it.
Right. And you may never have this situation. That's the thing. You never know. So leave it in, take it out. What do you guys think?
I just think if it's not going to hold up, why would we even waste the space on it? We got to get this shorter for Doug.
I agree.
Well, what you also invite by having things in there is then you have your citizens, well, it's in the charter, why aren't you removing him?
Right.
I dealt with that so many times, and then I would have to say, look, it's illegal. Well, how can it be illegal if it's in our charter?
Yeah.
Use that space for something more valuable.
Okay, I'll take that out. This is the section I was telling you about. If a vacancy occurs in the office of mayor, the deputy mayor fills that position, and then you declare the council seat open, and you would use this procedure under C2 for filling the council seat. So the deputy mayor moves into the mayor's spot, the council seat becomes vacant. I did extend these. It always bugged me, I guess, in the Surplus City Code that I think it was 45 days or 30 days. It was just a really short time period. I said here that council would have 60 days because when you think about how often you meet and all that, I think 60 days is more reasonable to fill a vacancy. You can adjust that however you want to. And then if that doesn't happen within the 60 days, then a majority of council members or any 10 electors of the city can petition the court to have it filled. And that's not all. I think that's pretty consistent with the third class city code, except like I said, I extended these timeframes a little bit to give council more time to fill the position. Any thoughts?
Looks good.
I agree.
So oath of office, that's pretty routine. The meetings at least once a month. I made this a little bit, you know how it tells you you have to meet on the first Monday to reorganize? I just said during the first week of January.
I like that. That's nice. Yeah. Otherwise,
Yeah.
Otherwise,
yeah,
you know, you're always fighting that first Monday and re-advertising.
exactly. Yeah.
So I just said that you have to reorganize the first week of January. The mayor is
Good.
the presiding officer. This is about the deputy mayor again. See if there's anything of note here. If no quorum is present in a regular adjourned meeting, a majority of the members of council who are present may agree to another date. That's pretty standard. Special meetings can be called by the mayor or the deputy mayor or upon the written request of 3 or more members of council. Council can have its own rules in order of business. And the thing about this is that, you know, most boards use the Robert's rules. You don't really have to. You could have your own rules in order of business and agendas. And the only thing you do have to keep the minutes. Those do have to be public records. That's part of the Open Records Act. So you have to do that. Here's the voting. I think I talked about this a little bit, but every member in attendance has to cast a vote. Here, I kind of made this so that you don't have to do a roll call vote every vote. You can just do it by ayes and nays unless somebody wants a vote roll call. If you think that you want a roll call vote every time, we could write it that way. But this kind of gives you the ability to do it either way.
I like the roll call method.
If you want all voting by roll call, I can definitely write it that way. This kind of gives you the ability to do it either way.
You're muted, Doug.
Doug, you're muted.
If we had more than 5, I would say, you know, that might be helpful. But I think with 5, I think the roll call vote's the way to go.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
I will change that.
Did you have something on that, Michael?
I was gonna say, days and days, we don't really, you know, someone comes into council and says, you know, who were the nay votes? You know, this way you don't really have to, maybe it's a contentious vote or something. You have to let the public know who voted nay or yay. That's my own. But as Doug said, there's only 5. So.
Now, I had a question on the first point under voting.
Yes.
For example, if a councilman misses a meeting and the next meeting they're going to approve the minutes, they usually abstain. Is that conflict of interest? Abstain the same thing?
There's no real reason to abstain from approving the minutes. I know that people do that all the time, but
If you're not there, how can you vote on it?
well, you can read them.
Yeah, we haven't operated according to number one, in strict adherence, most of the time, this is what happens. But I know there have been votes where somebody will abstain from voting and they hadn't revealed ahead of time why they were going to do that. So I don't know about, I mean,
I guess this is, to be honest, it's about people who just don't want to vote because it's a tough vote. And you're not really, I mean, the one thing as an elected official that you're required to do is vote.
right.
You're not really
Yeah.
required to do much else except vote.
That's
So,
what.
Well, how about this? Because this gets to, I think, Jerry's question. Rather than rather than saying it has to be a conflict of interest, couldn't we say, unless the council member has explained why he
states a reason for not
not
voting,
voting? Yes,
abstaining. Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
can change that. Yeah,
because it's not always a conflict of interest problem. Yeah, good. I like that. That's good. Good catch, Jerry.
I'll change that. Okay, 3 members of council, which may include the mayor, shall constitute a quorum. For so here's a question for you all. For resolutions and motions, we're saying the action of a majority of the council members present it's official action. So let's just say 3 members show up, you have a quorum. If the resolution or motion passes 2-1, you still have official action. But we're saying here that ordinances shall be enacted by a majority of the full council. So you would have to have 3 members to pass an ordinance. You'd have to have 3 votes to pass an ordinance. So that's what these 2 mean. But you wouldn't necessarily have to have 3 votes for resolutions and motions. And maybe I should say that 3 votes. That's clearer, I think.
Right now, what's a quorum now?
3.
Yeah,
Did it say that?
So it would stay the same. But what this is saying is basically you wouldn't be able to adopt an ordinance unless you had 3 people, a majority of council. Does that make sense?
I like that idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
makes sense.
they're gonna add the numbers.
And then this just says you have to follow the Sunshine Act. And that's it. That's all of the council language.
Good.
Did you have something on the votes, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I will make these changes. And I will also send out some draft language about ordinances.
They'll have to state, like, they'll go roll call, but they'll have to state if they abstain, what the reason is for abstaining.
Yes.
I backed up to clarify that for Michael. He didn't catch it.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
So number 2, what are we doing with number 2? We're not doing that?
You want to, I think I heard that everybody wants a roll call
Roll
vote.
call.
Roll call vote.
And all voting will be by roll call.
Yep.
And if you abstain, you gotta say why.
Yep.
You got to
Okay,
say
Michael is abstaining and we'd like to know why.
I like it. Okay, so we're gonna work on, Bonnie and Michael and I are gonna work on ordinances and city manager for the next time. Those are the next 2 sections. Does that work?
Okay.
Yep.
I'll send it out at least a week in advance so that you have time to take a look at it. Jerry's gonna research the age.
Right?
I thought I pulled one out last meeting. Was it Clairton's or Johnstown? They said 21.
I think Johnstown's was 21.
Yeah, I pulled one out of my bag last week and it said 21.
Most of them probably do say 21,
Yeah,
but we'll verify.
okay.
And in the meantime, I'll get the survey updated, get the link ready, and we can launch whenever you guys are ready. Our next meeting is the 18th.
18th, yep.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. That's all for me. I'm sorry I kept you so long.
I have school in
Well,
the
thanks
morning.
for your patience getting started.
Libby.
So,
Oh, that's right. We got started 10 minutes late, so we're good.
yes, we did.
We're all
Yeah.
good.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for the hard work. We're gonna call this, oh, wait, I need a motion. I can't call it. Somebody got a motion.
So
Okay,
moved.
Michael motion. He
Beat me again.
you. Yep,
Second.
see? Okay. So
Good second to me, Doug.
we're
Yeah.
adjourning at 8:44.
All right. Good work, everybody.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
guarantee you, these minutes
You.
won't come as quick as Bethany gets them there.
She
But
does.
I'll get there.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.
All right.